They want to get to the real thing. I'm a wide-eyed, energetic rookie, and we're playing this exhibition game.
At 59, Reggie Miller still carries the same calm authority that once froze entire arenas. The Hall of Famer, a 5-time All-Star and 3-time All-NBA selection, remains the face of the Indiana Pacers, a franchise that built its identity around his toughness, precision, and unshakable belief. They called him the Knicks Killer. For over a decade, that nickname echoed through the 90s, through every hostile night at Madison Square Garden, every roar from New York fans that turned into stunned silence. 8 points in 9 seconds. That wasn't just a highlight. It was a statement. In the age of giants, Miller proved that composure could be deadlier than strength. Reggie Miller didn't need to shout, dunk, or dominate the paint. His weapon was timing that perfect moment when confidence meets control. He studied defenders like a chess master, reading body angles, waiting for the smallest crack in their focus. Then came the release, smooth, fast, merciless. His threes didn't just count points. They changed games, silenced cities, and defined a generation. Every player who faced him understood that Reggie didn't play for applause. He didn't play to be loved. He played to be respected. The way he moved without the ball, the way he thrived under pressure, the way he stared down legends, all of it was built on discipline and fearlessness. From the late 80s to the early 2000s, Reggie became more than a shooter. He became a symbol of mental toughness, of what it means to stay calm when everything burns around you. And even now, decades later, when he speaks about the players he admired, the same fire still lives behind that composed smile. Reggie Miller was born in Riverside, California in August 1965, into a family where competition was oxygen. His sister, Cheryl Miller, would become one of the greatest women's players of all time, and his brother Darryl went on to Major League Baseball. In that household, excellence wasn't optional. It was expected. Reggie learned early that greatness had to be earned, not given. Every backyard game was a battle, every loss a lesson. That upbringing forged the quiet fire that would define him for nearly 2 decades in the NBA. Drafted by the Indiana Pacers in 1987, Miller quickly became the face of the franchise. He led the team through its rise from obscurity to contender status, carrying the Pacers to multiple deep playoff runs, including a trip to the 2000 NBA Finals. Over 18 seasons, he scored more than 25,000 points and retired as the all-time leader in three-pointers, made a record later broken but never forgotten. His style wasn't built on flash or force. It was built on mastery, movement, balance, and nerve. For fans who lived through the 90s, Reggie wasn't just another scorer. He was the man who thrived where others hesitated. His era was defined by contact, by defense, by psychological warfare. The paint belonged to giants, but the perimeter was Reggie's kingdom. Every curl off a screen, every split-second release, every icy stare told a story of control. But beneath the bravado, there was something deeper: respect. Not the kind born from headlines, but the kind that came from facing the best and surviving. For Miller, respect was the truest currency in basketball. And today we count down the 5 players he respected the most. Number 5, Larry Bird. Before Reggie Miller ever wore a Pacers jersey, he already knew the legend from French Lick. To a young shooter growing up in California, Bird was more than a superstar. He was the standard. The way he carried himself, the way he talked, the way he backed up every word with action that was basketball in its purest form. For Reggie, watching Bird in the 80s was like studying a manual on confidence and control. When Miller finally made it to the NBA, he got to witness Bird's greatness up close. During a scrimmage with Team USA in the late 80s, the rookie tried to challenge the veteran. Reggie hit a few shots, started to feel himself, and then Bird, calm as ever, looked at him and said, "You really think you can shoot like me?" Then he proceeded to drain shot after shot without missing, turning the gym silent. That moment stuck with Miller for life. It wasn't humiliation. It was education. Bird didn't need to say much more. His game did the talking. What impressed Reggie most wasn't just the skill, it was the mindset. Bird played with an unshakable sense of purpose. He wasn't the fastest or the strongest, but he always believed he was the best, and he made everyone else believe it too. He had that same quiet ruthlessness that Reggie would later build his own reputation on: the ability to stare down pressure and make it blink first. Years later, when Bird became the Pacers' head coach in the late 90s, the two men finally shared the same sideline. Reggie often said that was one of the most natural connections he'd ever had in basketball. Larry didn't need to motivate you with speeches, Miller recalled. You just looked at him and remembered what greatness looks like. Under Bird's leadership, Indiana transformed into a disciplined, fearless team, a reflection of both their personalities. Bird's influence pushed Reggie to dig deeper, to demand more from himself and from everyone around him. He had seen the way Bird prepared, how he studied every opponent, how he turned even the smallest edge into a weapon. That level of detail became a part of Reggie's own ritual. In Reggie's eyes, Larry Bird represented something larger than talent. He represented conviction, the idea that confidence, when earned through hard work, can be the deadliest weapon on the court. And when people later compared Reggie's swagger, his trash talk, his icy stare to Bird's, he didn't deny it. He smiled because he knew exactly where he learned it. Number 4, MichaelJordan. No player brought out Reggie Miller's competitive fire quite like him. Their battles were legendary, physical, psychological, and personal in a way that defined an entire decade of basketball. When the Bulls and the Pacers met, it was never just a game. It was a test of willpower between two men who refused to back down. From their very first encounter, Reggie learned that going up against Jordan was like stepping into a storm. Every possession was pressure, every mistake an invitation to be buried. Yet that's exactly what drove him. Reggie didn't fear Michael, he measured himself by him. If you want to be the best, Miller once said, you have to go through him. There's no shortcut. Their rivalry peaked in the late 90s, especially during the 1998 Eastern Conference Finals, the last great stand of Jordan's Bulls. Game 4 in Indianapolis remains one of the defining moments of Reggie's career. With seconds left, Miller made a sharp cut, pushed off just enough to create space, and drilled a three-pointer over Jordan's outstretched hand. The crowd exploded, and Reggie screamed with all the emotion of years spent chasing respect. For one brief instant, he had beaten the unbeatable. But even that victory was layered with admiration. After the game, Miller admitted that Jordan's presence forced him to reach levels he didn't know he had. He brought the best out of me, Reggie said. Every single time. That was the essence of their relationship confrontation, built on mutual respect. Jordan didn't just dominate. He demanded excellence from those around him, even his rivals. There were moments of tension, of course. Shoves, stares, and words that cut deep. But beneath all of it, there was understanding. They both played the game the same way, fearless, ruthless, and unafraid of the noise. When Jordan retired for the final time, Miller was one of the few players who could say he'd gone toe-to-toe with the legend and never blinked. To Reggie, MichaelJordan wasn't just the greatest player he ever faced. He was the ultimate mirror. Every time they met, Miller could see exactly how far he'd come and how far he still had to go. That's why the respect between them ran so deep. Jordan represented the standard, and for Reggie Miller, chasing that standard became a lifelong pursuit. Number 3, Kobe Bryant. By the time Kobe entered the league in 1996, Reggie Miller was already a veteran, the embodiment of discipline and precision. But when he saw that young kid from Lower Merion High School wearing number 8, he recognized something instantly familiar, the obsession. It wasn't arrogance or hype. It was hunger. The same unrelenting drive that Reggie himself had carried for years. Their first real encounter left a mark on both. In those early Lakers-Pacers matchups, Kobe didn't just want to compete with Miller, he wanted to study him. The way Reggie came off screens, the way he moved defenders like chess pieces, the way he created rhythm without touching the ball, Kobe noticed everything. Reggie once recalled, he asked a million questions. He wanted to know every little secret about shooting, about reading defenses, about mental preparation. That's when I knew he wasn't normal, he was destined for greatness. By the time the 2000 NBA Finals arrived, the student was ready to challenge the master. The Lakers and the Pacers met for the championship, and the world watched two generations collide. In Game 4, with Shaquille O'Neal fouled out and the game on the line, a 1-year-old Kobe took control. He hit shot after shot, silencing the Pacers crowd and forcing Miller to tip his hat. He never flinched, Reggie said later. That's when I saw a reflection of myself, only younger, stronger, and fearless in a different way. What grew from that moment was not rivalry but respect. Reggie admired how Kobe carried himself, his discipline, his relentless work ethic, and his devotion to the craft. They shared late-night conversations about shooting form balance and the psychology of pressure. Reggie often said that Kobe had something even rarer than talent, the willingness to suffer for perfection. When Miller retired in 2005, Kobe was already building his legend. Years later, when Kobe passed, Reggie called him the next generation's cold-blooded killer, a phrase only he could truly understand. To him, Kobe represented more than greatness. He represented continuity. The fire that once burned in Reggie's heart had found its next host. Kobe Bryant stood for obsession, the beautiful kind that consumes you, that refuses compromise, that turns pain into art. And in that, Reggie saw his own reflection, a reminder that respect isn't about age or titles, but about the relentless pursuit of excellence. Number 2, Ray Allen. When Reggie Miller talks about shooting, there's a tone in his voice that only true masters understand. And among all the great shooters, he's seen none embodied the art of repetition and precision like Ray Allen. If Reggie's game was defined by instinct and timing, Ray's was defined by structure, the purest form, the cleanest release, the calmest rhythm. By the time Ray entered the NBA in 1996, Reggie had already built the blueprint. Allen was the next evolution, smoother, quieter, almost mechanical in his beauty. What Reggie admired most wasn't just the way Ray shot the ball, but how he lived for it. The endless pregame routines, the silence before every release, the discipline that never wavered, even when the spotlight faded. Miller once said Ray Allen was the only player I ever watched, and thought that's how it should look. Their careers overlapped long enough for mutual respect to form. Whenever Indiana faced Milwaukee or later Boston, the two would share short nods after warm-ups, an unspoken salute from one craftsman to another. Reggie could see that Ray understood the loneliness of being a shooter. The hours of isolation, the repetition, the pressure of knowing that one bad night can erase 100 good ones. They both lived by the same code: stay ready, stay calm, stay true to the shot. When Ray finally broke Reggie's all-time three-point record in 2011, Miller was courtside calling the game for TNT. As the crowd erupted, the camera caught him standing and applauding. There was no envy, no hesitation, just pride. "Records are meant to fall," he said on air, "but respect, that's forever." Reggie often described Allen as the perfect shooter, not because of statistics, but because of balance. Ray never let emotion disrupt form. He treated every shot, whether in the first quarter or the finals, as the same moment. That level of serenity under pressure reminded Reggie why he fell in love with the craft in the first place. To Miller, Ray Allen represented the essence of discipline. He proved that greatness isn't loud, it's silent repetition done right 1,000,000 times over. And as Reggie watched him age gracefully, still shooting like a metronome, he knew that his legacy had been safely passed on to someone who truly understood the weight of respect. Number 1, Stephen Curry. For Reggie Miller, watching Curry rise wasn't just about witnessing another star, it was about watching evolution itself. The first time he saw Steph play, Reggie didn't see flash or style. He saw purpose. The way Curry moved without the ball, the balance in his release, the fearlessness in his shot selection, it was everything Reggie had built his career around, taken to a new dimension. Curry entered the league at a time when long-range shooting was still considered a specialist's weapon. Reggie knew that world well. He had lived in it. But Steph changed the geometry of basketball. He made the impossible normal, pulling up from 30 feet, shifting defenses before they even had time to react. And what amazed Miller wasn't just the skill, but the joy. Steph played with the same intensity, but without the anger or edge that defined Reggie's era. He smiled where others scowled, but the fire inside was the same. In interviews, Reggie often called Curry the evolution of the shooter. He recognized in him the same courage it takes to silence an arena, the same calm heartbeat that separates the good from the legendary. When Curry broke Ray Allen's all-time three-point record, one that had originally belonged to Miller, Reggie was once again there to witness it. He presented the game ball to Steph and whispered, "You've taken this art to a whole new level." For Reggie, that moment wasn't about losing a record. It was about legacy fulfilled. He had inspired Ray Allen. Ray had inspired Steph. The chain was complete. Curry wasn't just continuing the story, he was rewriting it. And Reggie couldn't have been prouder. What Miller respects most about Curry isn't just the range, the handles, or the championships. It's the courage to play the game on his own terms. To shoot shots others wouldn't dare to change how the world thinks about the line between good and great. Steph brought imagination back to basketball, and in doing so, honored the very principles Reggie lived by: discipline, confidence, and fearlessness. To Reggie Miller, Stephen Curry represents the future he always hoped for. The proof that precision can still beat power, that brains can still outshine brawn, and that respect, true respect, is earned when you change the game for everyone who comes after you. 5 names, 5 mirrors of what Reggie Miller valued most in basketball. Larry Bird, the embodiment of confidence. MichaelJordan, the relentless standard of greatness. Kobe Bryant, the pure obsession that refuses rest. Ray Allen, the discipline that turns repetition into art. And Stephen Curry, the innovation that carries the legacy forward. Together, they tell the story of how respect is built not through words but through battle. For Reggie, the game was never just about points or trophies. It was about testing yourself against the best, about the quiet handshake between warriors who understand what it costs to stand under that spotlight. Every time he stepped onto the floor, Reggie sought that exchange, the nod from a rival that said, "You belong here." Even now, when he speaks about these players, there's no bitterness, no nostalgia for what was lost. There's gratitude, because those men, in their own ways, made him who he was. They forced him to evolve, to sharpen, to stay fearless. They gave meaning to every clutch shot and every silence that followed it. In the end, Reggie Miller's legacy isn't measured in numbers, though the records still speak. It's measured in the respect he earned and the respect he still gives. In an era full of giants, he proved that focus and heart could stand just as tall. Back then, basketball wasn't just a game, it was survival. And today the question remains, who would make your list